Good afternoon, everybody. I am excited to welcome you here from the Bowling Building in Dudley Square. I am joined by 3 Boston Public Schools teachers, and today our topic is reinventing your practice using new digital tools. And we're going to talk about some really cool things that these teachers have done with new digital technologies in their classroom to take in practice that maybe they'd done before or that is familiar to us and reinvent it, reconstruct it, reimagine it for today's students. So I want to say a really quick hello to Jeff and Jocelyn and Noel. Hi, everybody. And I will introduce all of them here in a second, but first I want to give a quick introduction to what it is we're going to be talking about today and an introduction of myself as well. My name is Liz Homan. I'm a digital learning specialist with OIIT's digital learning team. Me and the rest of our team work to develop some online and blended opportunities for teachers to learn about new ways to incorporate digital technologies into their practice. Part of that is doing broadcasts and panels like this one where we talk to teachers and hear from them about what it is that they're doing that's really inventive so that you can learn from each other and share what it is that's going on in your classrooms. So that's why we're meeting today. That's why we've done a number of our webinars. If you want to learn more about some of the things we're doing, I encourage you to visit the Digital Learning Team's YouTube channel. And I have access to that and lots of other resources. If you're watching today, then you've probably already found our YouTube channel, but I'll have some links to resources for everybody too today that you'll be able to access as well. So really quickly, I'm going to share my screen to give us a quick orientation to the day. So today we're talking about reinventing practice with new technologies. And really quickly, I want to go over what it is we mean by reinventing practice. When we say we're reinventing something using new technologies, that's more than just taking what we did before and putting it in a new space or a new place. So I'm going to quickly introduce everybody who's joining us today and then talk a little bit more about that. Jocelyn Vache is an ESL French and visual art teacher from Excel High. You can wave, Jocelyn. She is also, and you might have to help me with this again because I'm still learning BPSEs. It was language acquisition help. Team facilitator, thank you, and arts liaison at Excel. She's sharing Kaizen, which is a free application that allows you to work with other applications too to assess ESL students' pronunciation. So she's going to show how she uses sound to work with students who are learning English with using this new tool. Noel Mendez is a Spanish and AP Prep teacher at Kennedy Academy, and he's going to talk about how he's used Google and lots of other tools for working with students in foreign languages, in particular how they can be used to help students publish online, engage in writing together and collaboratively. And Jeff is a history teacher at Boston Latin Academy and a National Board Certified teacher, and he's going to be talking about a cool new way that he sort of revamped the traditional lecture style of teaching to have students do interactive note-taking during his lessons. So really excited to hear about all of these examples, and I hope all of you are too. Really quickly, before they share their examples, though, I want to talk about what we mean when we say reinvention of practice with digital tools. It's more than just a transformation, or it's more than just a translation from what you did before into a digital environment. So unlike if you were to say, have students write an essay and then with a computer have them type an essay, that's not doing much besides translating what they were doing before into a new environment. But when we reinvent practice, we don't just translate it like that, we transform it. So we might shift what we're doing towards using student-centered approaches from teacher-centered approaches, which is a lot like what Jeff's going to talk about. We might change how students are accessing and creating disciplinary content or giving feedback, like what Jocelyn's going to talk about, and I think Noel a little bit too. So when we talk about transformation, we're really thinking about a shift in the way that students are engaging with content, a shift in the way they're thinking about content, and a shift in the way that they're accessing and creating it. It's really about moving towards a focus on more collaboration, creation, multimodal development and composition, and communication with one another. So if we look at our digital literacies curve, and I know that myself and my co-digital learning specialist, Ed, have shared this curve in quite a few of the sessions that we've held, we're talking about moving from functional technology skills that are basic sorts of things, foundational skills like searching the web, accessing the web, to moving them towards more strategic skills that involve a lot more communication and collaboration with one another. And up here, here the focus is more around that communication across platforms, creating in multiple modes and media. So when we talk about transformation with digital tools, we're certainly talking about incorporating technology, but we're also talking about taking the practices that we had before and reimagining what those look like for 21st century students who are very connected, very involved in collaboration, very multimodal thinkers and multimodal learners. So I'm going to turn it over to our panelists, and these are some of the questions that I hope will frame our conversation, and I'll keep coming back to these as they're talking, maybe asking them these questions. If you have other questions for our panelists, I do have my phone with me. I will check Twitter once or twice. It's a little hard for me. We usually have a little bit of a back channel going when we do these panels, and so one of us can monitor a chat while the other one is moderating, but I'm on my own today. So I'm gonna try to keep an eye on Twitter. You can tweet me at Liz Homan. Here's my handle down here if you have questions during the session, and I'll try to incorporate those questions if they come up while somebody else is talking. But these are the questions that I'm hoping will sort of frame what we're talking about today. And we want to know how these examples of practice transform how students engage with content, how they shift classroom culture and climate, and also what obstacles you've encountered and how you overcame those obstacles. So if you guys could talk about those things too, that would be great. And then also at the end here, I'm going to edit this page as we go. This slide deck is accessible to everybody via our Google Plus page, and I can also send a copy of slides to whomever wanted to get a copy of those, and so you can email me and I'll share my email at the end of our session as well. So if you'd like access to the resources from today's conversation, I've included links here, and I'm more than happy to share out today's slides with anybody who is interested in seeing those. So with absolutely no further ado, because the real show is not with me, it's with these three, I'm going to turn it over to Jocelyn, who's going to get us started by talking about Kaizen. So Jocelyn, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Liz. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Kaizen, let me go over here. Kaizen is really great for giving feedback in general to students, and Google Docs is good to share documents and give written feedback. Kaizen goes a step further. It allows you to give verbal feedback, which is good for students who are struggling readers or who need to see it in text and hear it. You can also link to lessons, and you can also embed rubrics, so you can highlight text and assign it numbers, and then it gives you a score and it tracks their progress throughout the whole thing. Those things are not all of what I'm going to talk about today, because you can easily go on their website. I'll pop over there right now. They have a really good website, they have a blog, and they have a YouTube channel which can show you essentially everything that I'm not going to talk about and the conventional uses of it. It should be, all right, there we go. So this is their homepage. If my computer wants to, or it does not want to, it's kaizen.com. It will come up soon. And you can use it from here. I prefer to use it directly in Google Docs because I can stay within Google Docs and then just use it as an add-on. And they also have their own YouTube channel which will set you up and show you how to use it when you're writing essays, which is how teachers usually use it. When I first saw it, I saw the potential to use it to assess the pronunciation of my students. A lot of my students come here and they're actually an atypical ESL group. They have very high literacy, but they struggle with listening and speaking. And they might go from ESL 3 right into an AP content class, and they have trouble contributing to the classroom discussion because their peers might not understand their pronunciation, or they're a little apprehensive to speak. So let me show you what I do with Kaizen to assess their speaking. I will make some kind of document that I will share with them. So it'll have a title up here. I'll have their names that they can highlight, and then a text down here. I've taught them all IPA, so I'll go over this nifty little website and I will transcribe it into IPA, which is down here, which looks like Old English, but it's teachable to students.
Could you explain what IPA is, just for those who don't know?
IPA, so I'll go back there. It's the International Phonetic Alphabet. So it's the alphabet that's used internationally to make sounds. So it's not connected to any specific language. It's internationally used. And then I have my document. I have the regular text and I have the IPA for the students who prefer to read it in IPA. I go up to share. I share it with my students. They make a copy and then they submit a copy for me in Kaizen. And you'll get an email saying this person is receiving feedback or looking for feedback from you, and there'll be things highlighted on it already. So you go up to add-ons and go to get add-ons and then look for Kaizen. It's free. Add it. Once you've added it, you open your document with Kaizen and this little mini deck comes up on the side. Usually a little faster than this. It's coming, it's coming, it's coming. It's almost there. So here you can see Tree, he was the one whose document it is. If I click on here, I can see his 36 seconds of reading our school's mission statement. So I'll just give you a little beginning of that.
The mission of Excel High School is to...
You can hear other students. So I listened to the whole thing. I highlighted the words that he mispronounced. So the first word he mispronounces is Excel. He actually says SL instead of Excel. So I gave him some written feedback saying, I hear you say SL instead of Excel. And then I recorded myself, Excel, saying the word. He hasn't gone on here yet, or there would have been him practicing saying it. Let me get another student up here. He has a few more. So for example, expression. He says expression instead of expression. I recorded myself saying it, and then he recorded himself
Expression.
trying to say it. He still didn't say it, so I will leave him another feedback saying, you know, and if I want to help him, I'll cut and paste IPA, and then that will be there for him. Since he has a lot of these highlighted, he's really working on his pronunciation. I actually gave him some feedback that was linked to an outside lesson. You know, I gave him some positive feedback. I gave him some pointers on what he can work on, and then I gave him this link to Pronunciation Coach, which is another website that could help him. And when you're giving feedback to students, that link right here will link to any lesson that you have preloaded. So if you have a lesson on, you know, the present perfect, or if you have a lesson, for example, on pronunciation, or a lesson on writing a good hook or a claim or supporting evidence, you don't have to keep writing the same comment. You can just link that to whatever you've preloaded. And then up here you can also enter a skill, and this is how you can actually track their progress and give them a score. This is the most recent feature, so I haven't tried it out yet, and since this is formative assessment, I'm not giving them a number on it, but this is my next step, is to record a skill. I also hope for their final projects for them to upload original text, something that they have written and they will give as a speech in front of the class, and I'll just kind of coach them. They'll practice saying it. I'll target the words that are not quite clear so that they can practice on their own before they stand up in front of a room of their peers. So that in a nutshell is Kaizen. It's the best that I've found. I used to use VoiceThread, and then it went over to subscription, which was a little annoying. I've had students call my Google Voice number, and then I can kind of read the transcript, but it's hard to give them feedback. Sometimes I'll use QuickTime, but I feel like in Google Docs, if you kind of live in Google Docs in your classroom, it's a good way for students to get direct feedback, and then you form this loop. You know, they'll write to you, and you'll write back to them, and they can really kind of perfect what they're working on. And that is Kaizen.
Jocelyn, can you talk for a little bit about how the students have responded to it, if they found it pretty easy and intuitive to use, if they feel like they've learned a lot from using it?
The students really like it, and they really don't like when I don't give them feedback that afternoon. I'll get texts like, did you listen? Did you listen? I recorded, and I'll be like, yes, you know. I had a faculty meeting, or I had this, or I had that. But they love the instant feedback. They love the individual practice. When I started teaching language 15 years ago, and I assume a lot of people do this, you'll have one thing for your whole class to be working on, some kind of worksheet, and you'll pull up the student one by one, and you'll try to write down what they're saying and try to remember, but you only get one shot at it. You can't listen to it again, and you can't mark it up the way that it's helpful. So they definitely like this. They've tried them all, and most of them use this. There's just a couple that don't have internet access at home who keep calling my Google Voice number.
I wonder, I saw Jeff and Noel sort of nodding along with a couple of things that you were talking about, and I know that they work with maybe different and even similar school populations. I'm wondering if the two of you can think of any other applications for this for your students or other ways that you might use it.
Well, I love voice comments. I use recordable comments in Turnitin. You get 3 minutes of voice comments there, and I love that. While I'm a good typist, I'm a better speaker, and so I find that I'm able to just get way more individualized comments out when I speak it than type it. So I definitely want to look into this, even though I'm not teaching ELL populations. To be able to leave those kind of oral comments, I think, is really valuable.
I think that, you know, from my experience, I used to, for instance, for homework assignments, they use linked language. It's a similar tool, but I think that what she was showing us is more complete. I will definitely apply that to my class. Definitely, they can leave feedback, written feedback, or recorder. I'm also some students who has no access or have trouble sometimes to access a website. What they do, they use the cell phones to record their voices, and they send me a file as a, you know, attached to a message. And I do the same thing with them. I record the feedback, and they have the opportunity to improve their pronunciation and their grades as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty popular thing right now, using audio feedback, giving audio feedback. This is a great streamlined way to do it. They also uses Google Docs, and it's also a good thing to know, I think, for teachers, that in Google Docs there are, first of all, add-ons. Like she showed that was an add-on via Google Docs. There are so many add-ons for Google Docs that you can just sort of tack on that use other applications. And the other thing that I wanted to point out too about Google Docs is that you can upload all sorts of files. So you could have students audio record themselves and then send it as part of a message in an email, but you can also have students upload audio files to their Google Drive. And in BPS we have unlimited storage on our Google Drives, and so you can add media files like that sort of to your heart's content, and students can store those audio files in Drive. So if you wanted to, if you weren't ready to have the extra app and the add-on, you could certainly have students record themselves speaking and then upload it to Google Drive too. That's another option. So in the interest of time, I have to move us along and go over and run over to Noel, but thank you so much, Jocelyn, for sharing that amazing tool. I think we're all feeling inspired to check it out. Noel, why don't you go ahead?
Definitely. My case is I'm teaching Spanish 3, and which is intermediate advanced and advanced AP preparation. So basically, one of our challenges is create solid AP essays. So one of the, attending this goal, I'm looking forward all the time to apply whatever is possible and is available in technology to help them combine the resources and develop their skills. I'm gonna go a little bit quick over the product we create. Basically, in this case, it's a all year long project that is called Healthy Vida, and it's a newsletter. So basically, they have to research online. We start the process in class, and after explaining the objective, and when they have clear what they do and what they have to do, we move forward to research, discussion, and create. Okay, just one second. So this is the final product. We started this last year, basically working using this language game, which is called hypertext. So basically what we're doing is writing together with the common goal, which is writing the same story, about the same story, different perspective and different tools, depending on what path are they choosing, they're going to arrive to a different product. And we're collecting all the stories. That's basically hypertext, that's a language game. And in this case, this is our goal was the edition for the spring. So depending of the complexity of the class and the level, the advanced class, for instance, did it on literature, what the other classes did it on politics and fashion. This is an EBA activity. So basically, it's evidence-based argumentation. During the activity, we establish claims and we make a discussions. They have to interact, speak in Spanish. They have to give each other feedbacks. So basically, we're combining from identifying claims and then start developing, analyzing the text, the articles. And after that, we, based on the claim and the supporting details they collect, the feedback they collect from another students, which is the third step, they start looking for more evidence online. They look for more elements to use in the next step of discussion, right? They use also, let me see if I can go to the next element to share.
I'm wondering how this is maybe changing the way that these advanced level language learners are learning the language. What differences have you seen in their ability to pick up the language as they're doing some of this writing online and building the newsletter?
Yes, I think that when they're combining all these resources, including something so easy like Google help them to complete the phrase, offer different variations of for a sentence. When they just start typing something in Spanish in the search engine, right? They have an idea. They can anticipate what would be the outcome for a possible sentence. They can use that information combined, for instance, with word references, with that's the dictionary basically that online that we're using, and we also use the Diccionario de la Real Academia to make sure that the vocab they're using or the words they're picking up are correct and are accepted by the Real Academia Española. So basically, combining all these elements, the final product is what we're seeing. I was trying in my in this terrible attempt to find it and searching the other file to show you how it looks from the first time we complete this newsletter to the point we are now. And you can see a huge difference. They can see they feel really proud of it. You can sense that in the students, and also the command and the integration you have and the culture of the school is something that you can also notice. The students that were thinking that they wouldn't be able to interact with native speakers, they are in the same class now with the same levels, and some of them are showing skills. You know what I mean? Attending to the content, like they feel really proud that they can teach something about language to native students.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. That was a lot of fun. I wonder if Jocelyn or Jeff have any questions or
for your patience.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a question. What do you do with the final product? Do you publish it anywhere so it's shared within the school community or with parents?
Yes, I share not with the whole community, and that's obviously one of the standards. So basically, I think that's the main point. Thank you for reminding me about it. And obviously, at the end, we share the final product with the school faculty, with the community. We invite even members of community outside the community as well, because something that specifically for the AP Spanish class, obviously this is a goal for college. So one of the points is to share this with professors in different universities, with people that might be interested in what they're doing. And at a certain point, I think that we'll be even interested to share with another publication. So one of the examples here in Northeastern, we're in Northeastern campus. So I'm making contact with Spectrum magazine, which is the student magazine for Northeastern University, and I'm planning to do the same thing with other colleges as well. So to give them an insight, so what they can be doing in the next few years, right?
Excellent. Yeah, I know that this project in particular was definitely shared out with faculty, because that's how I got connected with Noel. One of his colleagues was like, "Hey, you got to see what this guy's doing." So that was how I knew to go find him. So yeah, it definitely makes a big difference when students are, out there publishing what they do, because they know that somebody's going to see it. It makes a really big difference in their willingness to put a lot of work and thought and time into it. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff. He will bring us out in truly awesome fashion, I'm sure. So Jeff, it's on you.
All right, a lot of pressure, but I'll try. So what I'm bringing is I teach seniors AP Comparative Government and International Relations, and they're all going to college, and in college they're going to have a lot of lecture. And so part of my goal is I want them to develop the skills to be able to take notes in a lecture and get information from a lecture, but at the same time have it be more student-centered and be more interactive, instead of just me up at the front lecturing and them furiously copying down information. The other thing that I want to try and do is, because the majority of them, when they're in their lectures in college, are going to have laptops, is I want them to learn to use the laptop as a tool instead of a distraction, shopping on whatever sites they're doing or playing online games. So that's sort of where I'm coming from this. So I'll go to the screen share now. What I'll show you, what I'm starting with, is my screen share up?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the first thing that we're looking at, this is actually a total aside, but it's a really cool game. It's a simulation game that I had them do where you're a 15-year-old West African rural couple and you have to survive. And so it's a really terrific game that we played, and they got to see what it's like to be poor. This is for my international relations class. And I delivered this to them, not just to play the game, but with this document, which is all the questions they had to answer. And this gets into my whole Doctopus thing. So this is just sort of the background. And I'll show you the Doctopus in a moment. This is the PowerPoint that I did the follow-up day. So today, actually, I did this in class. This was the interactive lecture, class discussion, Socratic method part of the lesson. And this was what I wanted them taking notes from. So we talked about the two characters and the village and other considerations, and et cetera, et cetera. And what I'm able to do with Doctopus, which I'll show you in 1 second, is they don't just have to copy down everything that's on the slide. What I give them is this document here, and this is my note-taking guide. So I'm able to put the learning objective up on the top, and then for each slide, this is Kojo and Fatu, so that's the corresponding slide right there. and these are the questions. So instead of just having notes at the top, I'm able to put the questions. The student can then type in whatever information that they are getting both from the discussion. And this is how the lecture becomes interactive. I'm able to say things that they can then take notes on, and I'm able to ask them the questions and get feedback, so that if another student gives a great answer to this question, what were the best survival improvement strategies, they can take those notes down as well. And this is how it becomes an interactive lecture. Some of the things are, for instance, types of projects. I will tell them, okay, there's poverty alleviation. Now, what is that? They can then, again, take notes as I'm talking or other students are talking. And then at the end, this last slide here, I have them do a group exercise. And this makes the standard lecture format, I'm still able to lecture, but it's also able to be much more interactive and student-focused. The way that I get all those documents is with Doctopus. And Doctopus is another one of these free add-ons. So it works in Excel, or not Excel, rather, in Google Sheets. And you add it by clicking on add-ons, just like Kaizen, that other one. It's totally free, and there's loads of great video tutorials on YouTube. And this gives you a spreadsheet of everything. I can now look and see what a kid has done. And it gives me a link to every single, well, I'm on a different account, but it gives me a link to every single kid's notes. I can go back and grade it. And with goo.gl, I can even go back, attach a rubric, and grade what they've done. And goo.gl as well lets you leave voice comments.
Could you spell that for us, just for people who want to go check it out? Is that an add-on, Jeff?
They are add-ons, yeah.
goo.gl is? Okay, and how do you spell goo.gl? G-O-O-B-R-I-C?
Yes.
Goo.gl.
Yes. And you first have to do Doctopus, and then goo.gl. And again, there's great YouTube tutorials on how to use them. And so, again, I can grade instead of just, the kids taking things down. I can grade what notes they've taken in class.
And Jeff, I would be remiss if I did not ask this question. I'm curious, have you explored Google Classroom?
Very briefly, Doctopus and goo.gl is very similar, I think, to Google Classroom.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it pretty much does the same thing, just that with Doctopus, you're sort of, it might not be quite as self-contained. But with Doctopus, you are able to create class rosters, so you're not reinventing the wheel every time.
Yeah. And for those, so Doctopus is a really popular tool. It's one that I know that a lot of teachers are still working with. And so if it's something that you're interested in where you want to be able to create a document one time and send it out to all of your students and then get all of them back, Doctopus does that. Google Classroom does the same thing. I actually don't think it has the same capacity to add the rubric. So if any of you are interested in learning more about Classroom, he's right. Doctopus, there's tons of stuff online. You can look up tutorials. And if you're interested in learning more about Classroom, the DLT on our YouTube channel did about an hour-long webinar like this one on Classroom specifically. So if you wanted to learn more about that, you could go look at that, but it does similar things to Doctopus. So Jeff, I'm curious, what have you seen be the difference in students' skills? What kinds of things are they taking away from taking notes this way that they wouldn't have taken away if they were taking notes by hand or however you were doing it before?
I'm seeing when I was doing things before with just the PowerPoint, kids would shut out my voice and just furiously copy down everything they could on the slide. If it was on the screen, that was the most important thing in the world. And whatever I was saying was not captured. What's happening now is I can put what they need to get in the note-taking guide so that they're freed up to actually listen to what I'm saying and what each other are saying, and so they're able to capture more information.
Okay. Have you noticed a shift in the way your lectures go or in the way they interact with one another or with you during class?
Absolutely, because I'm able to cover a lot more material because I don't need to, I don't get the, Mr. Eisen, don't change the slide yet, or can you go back? I don't have that anymore. They have it, and so there's a lot more time and room for discussion with the students. I can ask a lot more questions because all that time is freed up because they're not copying things down. And they're able to instead take notes on what each other are saying.
Well, and for our students today, I mean, I could see ways that you could even take what you're doing in terms of the note-taking and expand that such that they're working in groups to capture examples. I imagine you probably have them turn and talk to each other during class sometimes in response to some of the questions you have up too.
Yeah. And that bit at the end, yes, is a group activity, and they've got to do something and then report out, and we can get and see what each group does,
Right, and that's going to be a lot more like what students today are going to encounter in college, because they're going to be taking their laptops with them to class, and they're going to be taking their notes on their computers. And one of the things I experienced as a college instructor over the last few years is that, you know, students, they really want access to the slides because they don't want to have to take that part of the notes. They want to be able to listen, pay attention, and add whatever gets added from class. And so, you know, teaching students to be strategic note takers is something that doesn't, you know, it's not as exciting sometimes, but it's a really important skill. It's something that they take with them into college that we have to make sure we focus on. So, excellent. Thank you all for examples. Are there any questions from any of the three of you? I'm not seeing anything on Twitter right now.
I do. I have a comment and a question for Jeff. I think the potential of this to invisibly differentiate is really beautiful, because you could send different templates to different students, and they're not going to physically see you handing out, oh, mine is different, or mine has more text on it. And then so thank you, I'm definitely going to use that. And then my question is, does Doctopus only use Google Docs? Are you able to collect from Google Sheets or Google Presentation as well on that spreadsheet?
Yes, you can. So when you're setting up the Doctopus spreadsheet, you can choose any kind of a document, another spreadsheet, a presentation to hand out. And that's a terrific point about the differentiation as well, because you can create documents for groups of students. You can have everyone have the same. You can differentiate. And you're right, that invisible, I never thought about it in those terms. Absolutely a great asset of the program.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely on my list. Thank you.
I like the phrase invisibly differentiate. That's beautiful. All right. Well, with that, I am going to really quickly share my screen one more time and make sure everybody has any last information that they need or want to follow up with me. Hold on one second. If anyone wants to contact me, my email is ehoman@bostonpublicschools.org. And if you found our event today, you should be able to access these slides with all the resources from today, including links to the apps that were shared. But if for some reason you're not finding that link or not seeing it, it's in our Google Plus event, but some people might not have Google Plus enabled, or you might have joined us from a different venue or avenue. So if you cannot find it, then you can email me, and I would be more than happy to send these slides along to you. So anybody who's watching and wants access to some of the slides or can't find some of these resources, please email me, or if you have questions that I can follow up on, you can email me there. And I also wanted to make sure everybody knew that they could fill out a broadcast feedback form. You'll need access to the slides to get this link, obviously, but we would love to have your feedback if you watched our session today and you're willing to give us a little bit of feedback and let us know how these things can be more helpful. We have a feedback form for you, and I'm happy to send that along in an email as well if you have any further questions. So with that said, I just want to point out that the resources everybody shared today, these are all great ways to think about how to reimagine your practice, how to take it and move things into a different environment that make things more interactive, more differentiated, more personalized for our students, from using each other's voices to changing the lecture such that students can focus more on the content of what's going on, to having students publish things that a wider audience is going to get to see. These are all fantastic examples. I want to say thank you to the three of you for joining us. It's way more fun to see real examples from the classroom than for us to just talk about things we think would be awesome in the classroom. So we really appreciate having you three on. With that, I'm going to say a happy goodbye to everybody and have a lovely Friday and weekend. And that'll do it. Thanks, you three.